YouTube, man, we back with another video, man. Gonna be reacting to why Gen Z doesn't want to work. Now, obviously everybody has to work. That's just life. But nobody wants to work and feel like they don't have anything left over. You know, especially now in this economy where everything's just so expensive and so high. You know, nobody want to work, and then after they get done paying for everything, they have $50, $60 left over. Like, who wants to live like that? You know what I'm saying? They don't got shit. They got the car payment, they got the rent, they got uh utilities, all these different bills and shit, and obviously it adds up. But nobody should be having to work to basically survive, just to survive. You should be able to work and still be able to have money left over, you know, to do whatever the fuck you want to do. You know what I'm saying? So that's just my opinion on it, though. Um, I don't think we should just be a slave to the system for our whole lives. But um, yeah, that's just my point of view of it. I wanna hear his point of view and see if we can agree on some different topics and different things or whatever. But I ain't finna keep on yapping any much longer, man. Let's go ahead and get into it.
Take a look at this picture. It's the Ford assembly line in 1913. These workers, lined up in rows, placing nuts and bolts on wheels, were working 12 hours a day. 12 hours a day standing in the same spot, repeating the same monotonous task. Who wouldn't lose their mind doing that? Well, it turns out a lot of them actually did. Before 1926, reports of Ford assembly line workers getting injured and, in the most severe cases, dying were not uncommon. Henry Ford needed a way to keep his workers productive without killing them. After all, dead people can't build cars. So that year, he introduced the 40-hour workweek, an 8 hours a day, 5 days a week schedule designed to give his employees.
And bro, I'm gonna let him talk, but who the fuck wants to do 5/8 a day, bro? Like, even though it's not that it's long, but it ain't that long. But give me them 312 or something and can add up to 40. You know what I'm saying? Or 410 or something. Like five, man.
Enough time to recover and keep their cognitive faculties on the job. For a century, the 40-hour workweek has remained the norm in many developed countries across the globe, all based on the idea of a single CEO of a car manufacturing company. And even though technology has continued to make our work ever more efficient, we've only added more hours. To let the 40-hour workweek persist in the present day is a recipe for angry workers, and for business owners, less profit. Yes, that's right, not more profit, less. So why are we still following this outdated protocol? Why aren't we working 30 or even 20 hours a week like some economists predicted over a century ago? And what are the better alternatives we need to start establishing? The Industrial Revolution. The end of many ancient problems, but the start of just about every modern one. Around 1870, at the dawn of the Second Industrial Revolution, a new household standard was growing. One income, one homemaker. We've all heard the story before. The husband goes into the office for 8 hours while the wife stays home and cooks, cleans, and runs other necessary errands to keep everything running like a well-oiled machine. The 40-hour workweek was established during a time when this was the norm, but the world we live in today follows a much different standard. Among employed US adults aged 25 to 64 who are married, the total amount of paid work between both partners amounts to 83 hours. That leaves 12 hours per week for caregiving and only 7 hours for housework, which women still do the majority of. Now, common sense would tell you that this surge in paid work among married couples would result in an economy where everyone has more than enough money to have their basic needs met. But that has been anything but the case. Families now contribute far more paid labor than the households the 40-hour workweek was originally designed around. Yet instead of translating into a ton of more leisure, much of the financial advantage of that second income has been offset by rising costs in housing, childcare, healthcare, and education. This seems totally backwards. If we're producing more than ever before, and families are putting in more paid work than when the 40-hour work week was built around, shouldn't we have eventually gotten to the point where we needed to work less? Well, there was actually a time when the United States tried to make that happen. In 1933, Senator Hugo Black and Representative William Connery introduced the Black-Connery Bill, proposing a mandated 30-hour workweek to combat Great Depression-era unemployment. The Senate passed Black's 30-hour workweek bill 53-30 in a bipartisan vote. Supporters claimed it would create 6 million jobs. It was expected to pass the House, and Secretary of Labor Francis Perkins was publicly supportive. But business leaders were not. According to historian Benjamin Honeycutt in his book Work Without End, instead of looking at the increase in leisure as inevitable or as potentially beneficial, they feared that if workers got a taste of a 30-hour work week, they would never want to go back and the law would become permanent. The wealthiest business owners held emergency meetings in Chicago and Philadelphia, and Perkins, who also supported a federal minimum wage, was flooded with messages of opposition. This eventually led to President Roosevelt changing his mind about the proposed bill, and support from others for the 30-hour work week collapsed. Roosevelt was more interested in building out a recovery plan using public works like dams, bridges, hospitals, and schools to supply employment, stabilize buying power, and help revive the economy. So what did he do? He basically said, hey guys, I know you don't want a federally mandated 30-hour work week, so let's compromise. That compromise eventually became the Fair Labor Standards Act of 1938, which banned most child labor, established a federal minimum wage, and made 40 hours the national benchmark. Now here's what's really fascinating. 40 hours isn't even a scientifically optimal number. Research consistently shows that humans can maintain 3 to 4 hours of cognitive focus per day. After that, our cognitive faculties start getting progressively worse. So how did this arbitrary number stay unquestioned for so damn long? The answer has everything to do with what is called the leisure scare. Finding a job that actually respects your time and aligns with the impact you want to make can feel daunting right now, whether it's ghost jobs or 50+ hours a week.
I mean, and especially now, bro. Like these jobs, man, they don't give a fuck, bro. They just, man, they and they paying like shit too. Like imagine, like nobody want to work for 12, 13 hours an hour. Like the big 2-6, like it's 2026, bro. Like there's a bunch of other ways to get money, but like if you just, I don't know, everybody's situation is different, but if like imagine just working 40 hours a week for $13 an hour, bro. Like that's not even, I don't even, that's touching the surface of 500. I mean, a week. Like, and there's people that make that in a couple days or something. You know what I'm saying? Like the whole shit's a fucking scam, and I think it's fucked up. You know what I'm saying? But like 13, $14 an hour, like nobody, man, nobody wanna work for that. You know, for that little, bro. That's just fuck. And then now these employers now, since how the job market is, um, they know that they could pay less because they know it's a high demand, I guess, for employees. Like the job market is so fucked. So why would they pay you what you're worth, or why would they pay you like 20? I say the minimum wage need to be at least 20, but why would they pay you 20 when they could pay this other guy 12, 13, and he gonna get the job done quicker than you, faster than you? He ain't gonna complain. So why would they pay you? You know what I'm saying? More. You know what I'm saying? So,
It's as if these companies hate the idea of you having a life outside work. If you're someone who's been struggling to make the advances you want in your career, then a professional career coach on today's sponsor, Strawberry.me, accountable. Instead of having you just talk about how you're feeling or why you feel stuck, they get straight into producing results for you. Your coach will help you get clarity on and overcome blind qualification. Percent revolves around the Puritan or Protestant work ethic. Emerging from the teachings of reformers such as Martin Luther and John Calvin, this philosophy held that work was a moral and even spiritual obligation. Labor was seen as a way of honoring God, while discipline, diligence, and careful stewardship of one's earning were viewed as a virtuous way of living. These beliefs were especially influential among the Puritans who settled in North America and helped shape early American attitudes towards work. In the early 20th century, sociologist Max Weber argued that this cultural mindset played a major role in the rise of modern capitalism. So rather than treating work as something to minimize, Protestant societies came to regard hard work as a virtue in itself. And when economists started to predict a future in which Americans could no longer exercise this virtue with as many hours in a day, business owners and political scientists started to panic.
Y'all, you can get 30% off your first order right now with 1-800-CONTACTS. I ordered my
Most famously, in 1930, British economist John Maynard Keynes gave a lecture in Madrid about the future.
So you basically tell me one person. I know you said this in the beginning of the video, but you tell me just one person did all of this shit. One person said that you gotta work 40 hours a week if you want some fucking money, you want to survive. One person.
Of work. John Keynes believed that by 2030, humanity's greatest challenge would no longer be producing enough wealth, but figuring out how to spend an abundance of free time. Man, if only. Assuming governments avoided major policy failures, he predicted that living standards in the West would rise to at least 4 times their 1930 level within a century. With technological progress driving extraordinary gains in productivity, Keynes expected the average person to need only about 15 hours of work each week to maintain a comfortable standard of living. But once we got to 1960, optimism about a future filled with leisure began to give way to unease. Some scholars started wondering whether people would know what to do with so much unstructured time. Pulitzer Prize-winning political scientist Sebastian de Grazia expressed that concern in an interview with the Associated Press, warning, quote, "There is reason to fear that free time, forced free time, will bring on the restless tick of boredom, idleness, immorality, and increased personal violence." A decade later, the US Interior Department echoed a similar sentiment, stating in an
I don't know what to think. Because I guess, yeah, okay.
1974 report that leisure, thought by many to be the epitome of paradise, may well become the most perplexing problem of the future. That was the leisure scare, the mid-20th century anxiety that automation would give Americans too much free time. As I was doing this research, I kept wondering why. Like, what's the real reason why political scientists and economists would be scared if people had more free time? You can disagree with me here, but I believe they subconsciously knew deep down that more free time would lead to Americans becoming more than just consumers. And it turns out some economists and sociologists thought the same thing. In her book, The Overspent American, Juliet B. Shore writes about the insidious cycle of work and spend in America. Here's what it looks like. Businesses continue producing an endless stream of goods that depend on people buying them. Advertising fuels demand by promising that
No, now I do agree with that. Because when, when you just work, you just want to spend it. You know what I'm saying? Spend the money. And to be honest, I think all of us are consumers. Like, even you watching this video, you're a consumer. But I think it gets to a point of, or a certain extent, to how much you are consuming. There's no reason. If you ain't fucking like a Bill Gates or something, or a multimillionaire, there should be no reason why you're going out buying all these unnecessary shit. You know what I'm saying? But that's what they want you at. You know what I'm saying? They want you to buy all this unnecessary shit. They don't want you to build assets and passive income and all these good things to where you don't have to work a job no more. Because if you do that, then they don't make no money. You know what I'm saying? They just want to profit off your labor and pay you pennies and pay you like shit. So I mean, that's just my thoughts.
each new purchase will bring greater satisfaction or fulfillment. Many households take on debt to afford things that quickly become ordinary.
And yeah, back to the houses thing. I don't get why people buy or find it like they'll let you. This is what I don't get. People will finance a $400,000 or $500,000 home, stay in it 30 years, 40 years, and the interest is weird, crazy. Even with cars, people finance cars they can't afford, and over time, the interest that you pay is ridiculous. If you finance a $40,000-$50,000 car, and say for what is it, 72 months or 60 some months or whatever, bro, the interest you'll be paying depending on your credit and shit like that, man, 5,000 probably, 4,000 probably. You know what I'm saying? It just all depends on how your credit is, but like the interest that you pay, you may not see it like in real time, like because you just think, oh, I'm only paying 500-600 a month. That's not really nothing, but that 500-600 a month can go into some assets or something, or to a business or something else. Like you could do something like $500-600. That's a lot of money. You know what I'm saying? No matter how rich you are, it's still like $500-600. Or I guess the average car payment is now like $700-800. So upwards towards $1,000 now. So if it makes no sense for you to finance a car unless you could just buy it outright, and you know what I'm saying? So that way you don't gotta worry about the interest or whatever. But yeah, it should make no sense. It makes no sense why somebody should be paying a car note, interest, insurance, gas. That's four different payments. And then please don't let you have a child, rent on top of that, and oh shit. But yeah, it makes like I never got the reason for that. Like people finance cars, you know what I'm saying? The interest rate is what's gonna fuck you up.
leaving them with larger monthly payments and a greater need to keep working. As the excitement of each
And yeah, I mean, and that's what it all comes down to. It's literally the cycle. You know what I'm saying? To keep you poor, because who gives a fuck about the poor? Nobody. But yeah, it's all a cycle to keep you poor, bro. Like the more payments you have, the more debt you have. For one, the credit card debt, loan debt. You buy a house, you finance, now you're in debt with the bank. You all these different type of debts. You don't have to keep working and working and working and working, and eventually, before you know it, you're 60, 65, 70 years old and worked your life away. You know what I'm saying? But I just think the whole shit's a scam.
purchase fades, another product promises to fill the gap, and the cycle begins all over again. Additionally, Shore writes, many potentially satisfying leisure skills are off limits because they take too much time. Participating in community theater, seriously taking up a sport or a musical instrument, or getting involved with a church or community organization.
You're one sentence away from launching your website with Base 44. Since the beginning of the internet, there's never been such a
This is something I touched upon in my video about why Gen Z doesn't have any hobbies. There is a serious time commitment required to actually become skillful in a certain hobby or spend enough time around people doing something in order to develop relationships with them. Filling every ounce of free time with a consumerist activity is the easiest, most frictionless way to make sure you are never bored, which a lot of us are subconsciously afraid to do, partly because that's what this Protestant culture ingrained into our thinking, but also partly because being alone with yourself and facing the looming certainty that you actually have no idea who you are or what you want to do outside of work is terrifying.
I mean, yeah, and that's crazy to think because like people go to work and then they get off and they just repeat the same cycle over again and they don't really find themselves. And it's like they just like imagining like and I don't understand how people do the same shit for like 20, 30 years. Like even at this Walmart or a grocery store or a restaurant, whatever you've been doing, and you've been doing the same exact thing for 15, 20 years, and you done probably got a couple little raises here and there, but it ain't nothing that'll change your life type shit, or nothing that's like significant. If you do get a raise, it'll be a couple dollars, but that ain't, you know what I'm saying? That's nothing, you know what I'm saying? But like I don't understand that. I don't understand how people can stay at a job for 20, 25, 30, 40 years, bro. Do the same exact thing every single day. I will go insane.
So what do we do to hide from this fact? We talk about leisure as a waste of time.
Stop wasting time! Urgency kills! That's how you'll get paid!
We promote hustling 24/7.
Let me tell you what, when you work for yourself, there's no Christmas, there's no f***ing Easter, there's none of that. You work for yourself.
We make ridiculous claims like this.
Slaves worked all the hours they were awake for their entire lives. In American history, in Egyptian history, in the rest of the world that had slaves, which is most of the world at some given point. I think, like, if they can do it, so can I.
And all a lot of Gen Z can do by now is just roll their eyes at this type of shit, because by now, we understand how insane it is to be living in a system like this. To have basic tasks done so quickly in a modern office setting that most people just sit around for several hours towards the end of the day, but to have your boss still insist you need to be there for that many hours because it looks good on a timesheet is absurd. According to Microsoft's 2024 Work Trend Index, the average knowledge worker now spends 60% of their time communicating through meetings, email, and chat, and only 40% creating, with 68% saying they don't have enough uninterrupted focus to do meaningful work. To think we will all become immoral, ill-behaved degenerates if we have more leisure time is statistically false, and to prove it, we can now propose what the future could look like if we break away from this flawed system.
This season in cinemas. Maybe not, because this is a CookieBot ad.
Imagine if you were able to design your own schedule with certain restrictions that your organization sets. That's the idea of flex time, a flexible hour schedule where employees choose their start and end times, work remotely, or structure their days around their own peak performance hours rather than an arbitrary organizational norm. Everyone has different hours during the day when they work best, and everyone has different responsibilities outside of work that take place at different points during the day. Flex time allows them the freedom that leads to the employee making their best contribution, making both them and their employer happier. Research consistently links flexible scheduling to higher engagement, lower absenteeism, and improved retention. However, I will say that flex time can cause coordination issues, and in jobs that require mutual decision-making and collaboration, this type of system could get very bad very quick. So that is why in most cases, the best option is to just simply reduce hours to a 32-hour work week. A 32-hour work week involves the same 8-hour-a-day structure, but with an entire day taken out of it, so workers would get a 3-day weekend instead of just 2. And the evidence for the effectiveness of something like this is overwhelming. Across 245 organizations that adopted a 32-hour, 4-day schedule without reducing pay, companies saw higher profits, lower employee turnover, and significant improvements in burnout, stress, anxiety, and overall physical and mental well-being. Microsoft Japan observed similar results, reporting a 40% jump in productivity after moving roughly 2,300 employees to a 4-day work week with no...
Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier, bro. Like, I would rather do 4 10s or something like that. Or, I know he said 32 hours, but I mean, shit. I mean, it's just the thing is getting up and getting ready. Who wants to do that for 5 days straight and then have 2 days? Like 2 days, like 2 days go by quick. Like in the blink of an eye, you back at work. You know what I'm saying? Like I think the 32-hour work week, but that's not ever gonna happen because they want to keep you enslaved and to the system and depending on the system. So I don't think the 32-hour work week will ever happen. But if it does, cool. But I would rather just do the 4 10s and just have the 3 days off, or even 3 12s and have 4 days off. You know what I'm saying? And that'll give you so much more free time to do whatever you want to build on the side or whatever.
Reduction in salary. Another anecdote comes from Iceland. Iceland moved a significant portion of its entire workforce into short and week pilots and found that productivity and service provision either maintained
and then that'll keep the morale high and everything high. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I can.
or improved. Roughly 86% of Iceland's working population has since either moved to shorter hours or gained the right to do so. These findings suggest that shorter work weeks succeed because they strip away much of the unnecessary busy work that consumes the modern workday while giving employees enough time to recover, think more clearly, and ultimately produce higher quality work. But I think that in America, it would take more than just a change in sheer hours employees work per week to start feeling the difference of less work. We would have to entirely restructure the way our culture views work. We would have to see leisure as a necessary condition of culture rather than a barrier to it. And that's exactly what Josef Pieper argues in his book, Leisure, the Basis of Culture. In his book, Pieper posits that the real purpose of work is leisure. If he were alive today, Pieper would believe that our total work culture, that is, working just to work more and working even when we're not working through some other devices, is a form of spiritual death. He believed that this whole idea in our culture that knowledge and wisdom can only be gained through taxing hard work is false. He writes, "The inmost significance of the exaggerated value which is set upon hard work appears to be this. Man seems to mistrust everything that is effortless. He can only enjoy, with a good conscience, what he has acquired with toil and trouble. He refused to have anything as a gift." Instead, Pieper thinks that it is precisely in those moments of leisure that we connect to the highest forms of knowledge and go on to produce some of our best cultural works. In other words, when we give our minds the space to wander, to ponder, to be bored, that is when we course correct to make sure we're heading towards a future that is beneficial for the most amount of people. Then he supports an idea I brought up earlier. Elites and business owners would be terrified to lessen working hours because then human beings would have the opportunity to actualize their own unique interests. In his most quoted line, he states, "Leisure is only possible when we are at one with ourselves. We tend to overwork as a means of self-escape, as a way of trying to justify our existence." So, like most modern problems, the problem of having an unnecessary 40-hour work week still persists because the people in power are projecting their fear of having no identity outside of their work onto the general populace. What I love about Gen Z is how much we rebuke the outdated ideas of the old world that are leading to the immense inequality we're seeing right now. And I truly believe the more
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna
that we start to raise awareness on just how broken the work culture is, the more motivated we will be to take action and start implementing the changes we want to see. Before you go, I want to leave you with one final question. If your job disappeared tomorrow, who would you be?
Yeah, you know what's crazy, man? I never stayed at a job more than like 6, 7 months, probably. The longest I stayed at a job was probably like 6 months, 7 months, probably. But like that goes to tell you that this whole shit's a fucking scam, right? And like I said earlier, everybody has to work, right? If you want money, you just have. It's not gonna fall out of the sky. But at the same time, nobody should work for low pay. Even like the minimum wage down here at East in Texas is still $7.25. So there's somebody out there right now that is making $7.25 an hour. How do you survive off that? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. I just I don't think the problem is with Gen Z. They just completely don't want to work, but they just want more of a like if it was how it was pre-COVID, where everything was a little bit more cheaper, like and the economy wasn't how it was today, people would want to work. Fuck it, yeah, people would want to work. Like you could pay rent and car note and all these different things and still have money left over to do whatever the fuck you want to do. You know what I'm saying? But now, man, you don't shit. Um, but yeah, I mean, there's certain points in the video I do agree with him on though. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I mean that's just my take on it. You know, I mean, I think like as a man, like you should want to work. You should not. You shouldn't just want to be sitting on your ass all day. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, it's like I get it. I completely get it. Nobody wants to work for low pay. But yeah, man, I mean, he did make some good points in this video. I'm gonna go ahead and hop off, you know what I'm saying? And I'm gonna catch y'all in the next one, man. I hope y'all enjoyed the video. And yeah, catch y'all, man, for sure.